Hey guys, we've had only what can be described as a disaster of a weekend. We've only had 4 sales and one of them came through this morning on offer. But the reason I wanted to show you what sold is because it's a really accurate depiction of what being a reseller is actually like. Because whilst I still love to show you when we get those $1,200 days worth of sales, realistically, you're going to have days like this as well where only one item a day sells and not for that much. So let's get to it. Thank God for Goosebumps. We did still manage to sell one this weekend. This issue went on to sell for $9.80 free postage. So this is the one that we took an offer on this morning. It is just a Pyrex bowl. Honestly, I regret buying these. It was a marketplace buy and they've just sat in our store forever. So this went on to sell for $16 plus postage. Our second highest item to sell is this North Face backpack. We got it on council cleanup, so it is free money, but we did only manage to sell it for 30 plus post. I have been sending aggressive offers on this for so long now. We had it listed for, I think, either 40 or 45, and I'm just like, I just want to get rid of it. So I kept on pumping out those $30 offers, and finally someone accepted it. But I thought, because North Face is a really good brand, that this would sell fast. Definitely not the case in this instance. And finally, our top seller for this weekend. This is a 2000 Sydney Olympics opening ceremony kit. This only went on to sell for $40 plus post. Again, another street bounty find, so not super mad about obviously getting extra money for this one, considering there was zero into it, but it just has a few things that were a part of the opening ceremony, like these torches and wristbands that lit up, plus a few brochures and tickets and stuff. Kind of cool collector's piece, obviously not in the most immaculate condition, but still, that's free money into 40, so cannot be mad about that. So I thought it was worth keeping on theme and having a little chat about realistically what it's like being a reseller. It's pros and cons, I guess. I know I've touched on it on previous videos, but I also have a few ideas of things that I think might be helpful for you guys, things that I would have loved to have known when I first started out, but now being 6 months in full time and 2 years in starting this whole journey, I think there's definitely some tidbits of wisdom I could probably pass on to you guys, albeit, and I want to say this from the get-go, I am no expert and everyone does things differently for what works for them. And so obviously what I share is what works for me. I'm not saying it's going to be in copy and paste and that will lead you to success. There's definitely going to be ups and downs. So I think the biggest thing is to have some sort of resilience and determination, because if you don't have those, this business could very easily get you down and you could feel defeated in the first couple of weeks of just starting out, because as I said, you're not going to immediately jump into success. You might find an item that sells really fast for a whole lot of money, but then realistically to be able to repeatedly do that consistently for the whole time that you're doing this as your job, very unlikely. There are a few topics I will share with you guys in some future videos if you're interested in terms of my processes. I know I've done a bit of a how I pack, but also I want to dive a bit more deeply into how we track all of our numbers and how we create sales. I know that we've been asked that in the past. I definitely want to touch on those in another video. I think tracking your sales, I've got a new spreadsheet this year. I still am using my old one, but there is a new one that just more focuses on the numbers, and I'll share that with you guys in a later video as well. But I think one of the key things that I sort of really wanted to touch on is in terms of, is eBay really on your side? Because this is something that I always thought as a seller, we would get so much more support than we actually do from eBay. I am very surprised with how much the old mentality of the customer is always right seems to apply with eBay sales as well. What I mean by that is, obviously, like, if you know something is wrong, own up to it. If something's broken, refund the buyer. Like, don't try and dig your feet in for no reason. But I think there's also times where you question the buyer's legitimacy, if they're trying to scam you, because there are a lot of scammers out there as well that you need to be aware of. But I think just feeling that lack of support when there are problems that you genuinely feel like you're in the right for, eBay doesn't seem to be as supportive as I would hope. I've also found recently that in chat, one person will tell you one thing and then you'll talk to someone the next day and they'll tell you something completely different. So that does also make it harder being a seller when you're asking for questions, when you're following up on an issue that you've had, that their story seems to change as well. So I don't know, like it is a lot harder. I genuinely find that eBay will 9 times out of 10 rule any case or dispute in the buyer's favor unless you have stone cold hard proof that you're in the right. And I think what I touched on last week in terms of the returns cases, like that does make it really hard because, like for example with that Xbox, they sent back a fully functioning Xbox. It was a buyer's error. They didn't have the right cables to set it up properly, even though I had advertised it as not having those cables, but we still had to pay for the shipping there despite all of this, because when we had to refund them, they got refunded their shipping because they technically don't have the item anymore. And when I was talking to eBay about this, I'm like, how is that fair? Because we sold them an item exactly as described. They had a problem with it. They falsely returned it under a faulty goods claim, which then meant we as a seller had to completely refund them everything. Thankfully enough, I was able to argue my way through with eBay to get the return shipping refunded as well, because normally in that case as a seller you would have to pay for that, but thankfully eBay had said that they'll refund us that. Keeping that in mind, that refund didn't come in our account for another month, so we had to wait. I mean, albeit it was only like $21 or something, so it's not the be all end all, but things like that, it is frustrating because at the drop of a hat they can freeze your funds and then you don't get paid, and if that's your only source of income, it can be problematic if these dispute cases do drag on. I think one tip that I would always have when dealing with eBay is don't be afraid to go back the next day and talk to someone new, because I've definitely had cases where I've spoken to 5 eBay reps. They're all saying, in other words, no, and then the 5th or 6th eBay rep that I talk to is like, oh yeah, no, I totally get it, no worries, here you go, here's the resolution that I wanted. And don't get me wrong, I don't push for it if I don't think I'm in the right. Like, we recently had a case where we sent a Wedgwood item to a repeat buyer, absolutely lovely. They buy from us all the time in terms of Wedgwood items, but they sent us a message being like, hey, this piece, it was a framed piece with a velvet backing and then the Wedgwood piece in the middle. And they're like, the velvet's fallen off. The piece is still attached to the velvet, but the velvet's no longer attached to the frame, which sort of completed the whole look. And I was like to them, oh shit, like it definitely wasn't like that when we sent it. But they showed us photos of that's how it was when they received it. And so for me to go, well, I know that's not our fault in terms of I packaged it well and everything else. I think it's just because the item is old and the glue just gave way. It was unfortunate that it happened to happen in the mail. And the good thing was the buyer also agreed. They were like, I 100% reckon you're right. Like it was the glue that's just given way. But us as a seller go, you know what? We want to keep a really nice relationship with this person. So we offered them a partial refund of $30 so that could contribute towards them fixing it. To be honest, I don't even know how much something like that would cost, but I was happy to go, you know what, you're a loyal customer. We still make money by giving them back $30. We're not completely refunding them. And I did give them the option to return the item to get the full refund, but they really loved the piece. So I'm glad we were able to help them out in that instance. But if eBay were involved, they would have said, just give them the full refund, and that's not something that I think is fair. Also, if you don't get your item back, don't give a refund until you get the item back. This is my biggest thing because there are a lot of scams out there as well. But every time that we've dealt with eBay, it's always been difficult. It's always been hour-long chats. So this is also where your resilience comes into play, not only for the patience of selling the items and if you have a rough week, to not let that put you down, but also resilience in dealing with eBay customer support, because they're not as helpful as you would hope they are. And I understand their justification of going, At no point does this item come into contact with eBay, so they can't verify who's right or in the wrong. They have to believe the customer as much as you. But I also strongly believe that when you see that us as an eBay seller has 99.7% positive feedback, one of the negatives was a false negative as well. They said the item was fake, and it was not, but we can't get that removed. And the fact that we have been, as I always start with their conversation, a loyal eBay seller for over 3 years, you think that there should be some understanding in supporting us as a seller. So I think with eBay, you do have to have that bit of grit to make through it all. It's not easy breezy. Marketplace is just as another pain in the ass, as I'm sure most of you are aware, because if you don't sell on eBay, Marketplace is a really good way to start getting into reselling. And the amount of people that don't show up, the amount of people that stop replying, the amount of people who block you for no reason. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it on this channel before, but I had one guy, I was fully transparent with him. He had a massive gaming bundle, and I was like, hey, I'm a reseller, like I would love to do a deal with you that's mutually beneficial, like you get enough money, but then there's also enough meat on the bone for me. He then went off his chops being like, you're the scum of the earth, you're trying to scam people, trying to get things for dirt cheap and then sell it for so much more. And I was like, I literally said in my message, I wanted to make it beneficial for both of us, because there's no way in hell you're getting the same amount of money on Marketplace as you are on eBay. And then he blocked me, so whatever. Yeah, I mean, again, there's always going to be difficulties with customer support, but I think for me, the absolute benefits are the flexibility. I love what I do every day when I start working. Like, yeah, there are the drawbacks of the time that it takes to test and clean and photograph, then list, then deal with questions and customer support. But at the end of the day, this is something that I love. I love finding all of these really cool, unique, random items. I mean, sometimes it's the stock standard gaming stuff, but that does well for us, and I love gaming, so I have a personal attachment to those sorts of items. But for me, I think I love doing this, and it's not going to be for everyone. But I know I had a person mention on our TikTok saying that they were inspired because they were watching some of my videos and they wanted to try reselling, and they sold one item for, they said it was over $200, but somehow they had to give a complete refund. They didn't get the item back, and their eBay account was cancelled essentially, which I find really odd. I think there's always two sides to every story. To me, that seems like they must have been selling something that they shouldn't have been selling on eBay, or they were genuinely being a bit scammy. I don't know, because in no way can I fathom that you don't get the item back to be able to give them the complete refund. So I don't know what's happened there for that person, but they're like, I'm never going to resell again. Like, don't be disheartened, because sometimes you will get a shit show, and then other times you will make lots of money. But again, only really do it, one, if you want to do it as a hobby and you're going to put a little bit of effort into it, but not a lot, but then also don't expect a lot of money in return. Or if you're going to do it full time, go all in. I am 100% all in here, and I'm loving it. So I know a bit of a random tangent here, but I think there's always going to be ups and downs with all jobs. This one, for me, because I rely on me to do stuff, it's not going to be for everyone. So yeah, it's been a wild ride so far. I'm loving it. But as you just saw earlier in this video, every week's not going to be amazing, and you just have to grin and bear it sometimes. Whereas I've got so much stock here that I need to list and take photos of, that I'm not worried about one bad weekend. I'm not worried about one bad day. I'm not worried even about a few bad days, because realistically, history is tracking the way that I want it to, and we're currently on track for our goals for this year, and we're only 1 month down. So, I mean, and I say we're on track, we're actually smashing it. So, very exciting. Please stay tuned. Please leave comments down below of other things that you would love to learn about being in a reselling thing. And as I say, always take my advice with a grain of salt. I do not know everything, but I am happy to help where I can. And I think I'll start doing a few little tutorial YouTube videos as well that I wish that I knew when I started out. And so hopefully it might just put you guys on the right foot, because I think even in terms of like sourcing stock, we started off a lot better than I've seen other people do. Like, other people started in like DVDs or really cheap items and going, yes, I made $2 on that flip. Whereas we've always started with the mentality of, oh, I want to be making like $10 on my flip. And so straight from the get-go, we're already making a lot more money. So, and I think that that's something that you, with the knowledge, can start off on the right foot. But anyways, thank you for listening to my rant. Please say hi in the comments. I would absolutely love it if you could subscribe. If you want to learn more, please do. Follow and let me know what you guys want to learn about. But I have a few ideas, so stay tuned. But I will see you on the next one. Bye.